Let's throw some jabs.
The fight starts now!
All right, Sergio, Canelo Alvarez's next fight is official. He will take on John Ryder in a 168-pound fight on May 6th in Guadalajara, Mexico. Sergio, Canelo remains the biggest box office draw in boxing, but after what can only be described as a lackluster year last year, he has fallen from the ranks of the truly elite. So I'll ask you this. As Canelo enters a new phase of his career, can he or will he be number one pound for pound again?
You know, it's going to be tough and the odds are against him, but I'm going to go with the odds and say no, Mannix, and I'm going to have to explain why. He's been a pro since he was 15 years old. He has over 62 fights. That wear and tear on his body, you see him all the time, his knees, his elbows, his hand injury. That starts to pile up about the age that he is now. I remember I started having all my injuries or my injuries catching up on me in my early 30s. Your body's not the same. Is he still going to be elite? Yes. Is he still going to be a pay-per-view star? Absolutely. But pound for pound number one, that belongs to if Crawford and Spence ever fight, if Inoue and Fulton fight, if Usyk and Fury. It belongs to the winner of those type fights because they're mega fights. Now, if Canelo wants to get back to number one, you know what he has to do. Bivol, Beterbiev, Benavidez. He can knock one of those guys off, then yes, of course, El Mexicano's back on number one spot. But for right now, beating the John Ryders in the world, it's not going to do it. There's too many people waiting behind you to claim that spot.
Now, I think he will get back to number one because I still think the elite fighter is in there. Bivol is always going to be a really challenging opponent. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's every bit as skilled as Canelo Alvarez, and he doesn't make the mistakes that some other Alvarez opponents makes, and he's able to exploit. But if he beats John Ryder, and over the next couple of years, beats guys like David Benavidez, like Edgar Berlanga, like Jermall Charlo, guys that are going to be available for him to fight, and guys that he has shown a willingness and even an eagerness to get in there and fight, he's going to pop right back up at that number one spot. Because, Sergio, the problem with the pound-for-pound rankings is that, look, right now Terrence Crawford's at the top, but Crawford's not fighting anybody of substance. If Naoya Inoue defeats Stephen Fulton this spring, I would make Naoya Inoue the number one pound-for-pound guy on my list because of someone that he beat. Similarly, if Canelo goes through the next 2 years and gets wins over Ryder, Bivol, Berlanga, Benavidez, he will solidly entrench himself in that number one spot. And I think he still has it in him. I think that hand injury played a big role in the fact that he went the distance in a very average type of fight against Gennady Golovkin. He got that taken care of. He's getting back in the ring against a credible but not especially dangerous opponent in John Ryder. And if he can get some of his rhythm back, he'll go into the fall still the same fighter he's been for years. So I think, yes, over the next year or two, Canelo Alvarez will once again be number one pound for pound.
Yeah, you just basically repeated what I said as far as what he needs to do and what the other guys aren't doing. With the other fighters like Inoue and Fulton and Fury and Usyk and Crawford. Yeah, there's a lot of talent there. Canelo, once you're on top, once you're on top the first time, it's easier to get back there. You know how to get back there. But look, the Benavidez fight, that's going to be a 50-50 type fight to me, especially if Benavidez looks like a monster against Plant. I don't see him beating Bivol again. I don't see Canelo beating Beterbiev. I just think he has a hard time with a lot of these fighters. Charlo, I think that's explosive, but Canelo will be the favorite. I would love to see that fight. But there's too much competition, Mannix. Too much competition. I think Canelo will get back to being the number one star. He's still going to be the main attraction. Number two.
He's already the number one star.
He's
already.
But we're talking about pound for pound number one.
The Benavidez fight.
We're talking about pound for pound number one.
I'm with you that Benavidez is a dangerous opponent for Canelo, but Benavidez, when I watch him, he's a lot of offense and not great defense. And that can largely be attributed to the fact that he hasn't fought guys with the kind of punching power that Canelo has at 168. You have mentioned how he fights, kind of hands down, that little box there. He's aggressive. You can't do that against Canelo. If you come in there and you are overly aggressive against Canelo, he is going to find a way to make you pay for it. So I don't think David Benavidez will fight the way he's fought over the last couple of years if he gets the opportunity to step in against Canelo. And I guess what it comes down to with this argument, Sergio, then, is that you believe that time, number of fights, injuries will have an effect on Canelo over the next couple of years. I don't think he's quite there yet. I still think there is a year and a half of us seeing peak Canelo. And I think getting that hand injury taken care of when he did, getting the opportunity to fight a guy like John Ryder, who will be slick, difficult to hit, challenging, very worthy, but not going to put Canelo, I think, in a lot of danger. I think that's going to set him up for a big second half of this year and an even bigger 2024.
You're an optimist. It's unbecoming, Mannix. I'm not accustomed to hearing you being on the bright side of things, but whenever you're talking about a fighter like Canelo, who's going on 19 years as a professional, and all those injuries, all those training camps, all those sparring sessions, they add up. No matter how great you are, whether you're Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson to Sugar Ray Leonard, they all had their inevitable decline, man. It's just time. That's the way it is. And Canelo is hitting that. We've already seen a regression in talent, and we've already seen him slow down. We've seen him vulnerable. And
wait. Have we seen him slow down?
Yes,
Where
we have.
We seen him slow down?
He wasn't looking like a monster against Kovalev. He wasn't looking like a monster against Caleb Plant.
Come on.
What?
Come on.
It took him 11 rounds. It took him 11 rounds to beat down.
Canelo doesn't get early. He doesn't get early round knockouts. When in Canelo's career has he picked up these early round knockouts? That's what he does. He wears you down and stops you. He did to Kovalev what he did to Caleb Plant. And sometimes guys like Callum Smith decide they're just going to play it safe for the rest of the fights and don't engage with him and go the distance. He knocks out guys like Avni Yildirim early, guys that have no business being in the ring with him. But if you have talent, Canelo's not going to stop you right away. It's going to take him some time to figure it out, just like it did with Billy Joe Saunders as well.
Well, yeah, that's because he's an expert boxer. He's not going to attack unless he sees an opening. That's just the way it was with any boxer puncher, no matter how hard you punch. But we have seen regression, whether you like to admit it or not. It's not as his offense is not as
you
confident.
You saw regression in 2019?
I seen it against Golovkin.
2019.
I seen regression against Golovkin.
You said Kovalev. You saw regression back in 2019.
I seen him
when Canelo was 28 years old.
I seen him having issues breaking that barrier, being a little bit too careful. But he had to be careful against a light heavyweight. I seen regression against Golovkin, Mannix. That's when I kind of had to admit, like, this isn't the Canelo that I'm accustomed to seeing against a 40-year-old fighter in Golovkin. That's where it opened all our eyes.
Well, I think the hand injury had as much to do with that as anything else. And what this boils down to, Sergio, is I love Mexicans and you hate them. I think that's what we're agreed on right now.
Tú no sabes nada, gringo. Nada.